If you're enjoying the Heath Geeks Book Club podcast, we'd appreciate if you hit the subscribe button, leave a like, rating, or review, whichever your preferred podcatcher platform allows.
This edition of our podcast is brought to you by 360 Health and Well Balanced Nutrition.
Welcome to the Heath Geeks Book Club podcast. Listen in as Kristen Norton and Eleanor Russell review all those great health and wellness books you've been wanting to read or you have read and want to talk about. Here's Kristen and Eleanor.
Hey everybody, it's Kristen in the studio today with
Eleanor.
your favorite health geeks.
Yes, absolutely. We're reading books. Does anybody else out there read books?
Or do you just like talking about books?
Yeah.
I think that it is hard to believe that we are on, episode 115, 16
Something
here?
like that, yeah. Ooh.
Can you imagine? We have talked about a lot of books. And like you said, they start to kind of intertwine and play on each other, which is really neat. And we've had some fun discussions on a million different topics. So here we are just having a little bit of a chit-chat.
Yeah, because funny things happen. When I was at a meeting, this guy came up to me at a networking meeting, and he said, "Oh, I'm so glad," because I promote the book club in these networking meetings.
Yeah.
I do mention that we're doing this. And he said, "Oh, I'm so glad you read books." So I said, "Oh, there's another one. Okay." So we know you're out there. You readers are out there. But on the other side, if you're not a reader and you just like the synopsis or the conversation or the little trigger points, we're all about that. And then we typically find in our day-to-day routines what we've read weaves into our lives. So, Kristen, have you had any experiences where you stop yourself and say, "Oh, this is from the book we read, but I'm doing it here"?
I do, but the first thing on my mind
What's that?
is a little different, and it is a story I got from my mom, who went to her doctor for a regular checkup, and her doctor was like, I think you might benefit from reading this book. Get out your pen or whatever, write it down, and it was the Blue Zone solution. And she goes, you know what? My daughter's a dietitian, and she's got a podcast about that. So I love when our listeners are, recognizing these books that we've talked about. And you might be like a reader, but you're very particular, right? In order to spend your time reading, you want to make sure that this book is what you want, what you're interested in. It's going to be a good one. And that's what I like to help people determine, right? We bring up these books. We talk about what we like about it. Yeah. We filter it. We make sure that it's an expert opinion or not. And tell you readers, what you might like about the book. Absolutely.
And then what we like, too. I had some company over the other night, and we were sitting around the fire, and one of them said, "Let's take a walk." I said, "Okay, let's do that." So we walked down into the woods, and I said, "Well, while we're down here, let's touch the bark. Let's be quiet. Let's smell the woods."
I'm glad you come to see me, but let's be quiet.
Yeah. So anyway, we did that, and I looked at them, and they were all standing there hugging trees, and I went, "Oh, this is so much fun." But, I would not have done that as deliberately as I did if I had not read that book on forest bathing.
Yeah.
And to say, while we're here, let's just expand this experience. And I'm finding that I'm doing that in more of my social areas and some of the meditation ideas. I pull from some of these books and we use those. And I think you mentioned that you were using some things in your practice that you were finding in your this literature that we've been reading, that you're using it in your nutritional counseling.
Absolutely. I find things all the time from the books that I can use in coaching. And the one that I've been using the most lately is the WWW from How to Break Up with Your Phone.
Yeah.
Because it just helps you be mindful in a million different ways, but, about food.
Tell them what WWW stands for.
Okay. It stands for what for, why now, and what else. So in the book, How to Break Up with Your Phone, she encourages you every time you reach for your phone, which can be a habit to do all day long, ask those 3 questions. And I relate that to food, and I ask my clients, if you're in between meals and you're really snacky, you can ask what for and why now, and it helps you gather information about that. And I think it goes for everything, even chatter. Like, maybe you're feeling really negative or ruminating on something, and you can say, "What for? Why now? What else? What of the tools can I use to help me get out of this?" So,
yeah, because I think both of us are interested in creating healthy lifestyles, not only for ourselves, our families, but for those that we can influence. And so these things that we're learning, or reinforcing things that we knew, or changing ideas about stuff we thought we understood, which has happened in a couple instances for me. That things I thought, when we talk about journaling and writing, I know you probably use journaling diaries, food diaries, and things like
sometimes,
that.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and we can use that just to explore how we feel all day long too. So I'm feeling how at this time and that time, and just check in with ourselves. What's our mood? There are lots of things we can do. But then I found out in this book that we most recently reviewed in Chatter that sometimes you've got to be careful in your journaling exercises not to focus so long on negativism, the negative aspects of what you're doing. It's good to purge them, but then transform that experience into, instead of a threat or a bad experience, into a challenge or a positive outcome, or to find out how other people have moved past these things.
And that book really helped me make sense of why people say that journaling can be really bad.
Exactly, because, I was kind of like, let's journal, but we have to be careful.
Right, because you could journal yourself into rumination.
Exactly.
And just like you could talk yourself into co-rumination we learned about.
Yeah.
Another thing came to my mind. This was a one way back in episode 34, The Lazy Genius Way.
Yeah.
So I lose my phone all the time.
Oh, I'm so glad I'm not alone.
All the time. I'm losing my marbles. That's another book. Yeah. But
do you really lose your phone?
I do.
mean, you put it down and forget where you put it?
Yes.
I'm not alone.
No, I can't tell you. So Apple has this Find My Device watch. I can't tell you how many times I have to use that.
Tim's shaking his head over here.
So go ahead.
No, I don't usually lose it. It's just it falls in my couch cushion.
It hides.
Yeah,
it hides. Yeah.
Oh,
It's trying to get away from
straight
you.
up lose mine. I set it down somewhere. So I was talking to my lovely business partner, Lucy Hayhurst, and she had this brilliant idea that she can, I don't think she got it from The Lazy Genius Way, but I said, wow, that's really good. And she goes, I kind of feel like it's a lazy genius thing. But she designates once. Remember that rule in The Lazy Genius? That this is where she puts her phone in every room. So she has one place and she can't put it down. I'm like, how do you remember that? That's such a lazy genius idea. I referred it to one other book, but I couldn't remember. Maybe Gretchen Rubin. She has similar kind of rules like that.
Right. Well, that made me think of something a friend of mine shared with me the other day, and I don't think she would be too unhappy me sharing it here. But
you don't have to say her name.
I'm not going to. So when she came to my house, she always brings a pocketbook in, and she has keys. And then I said, "Hey, do you want to?" Oh, okay. This ties in. When we read the Losing Your Marbles or Keeping Your Marbles.
Yeah.
He had a recipe section, and so I made that peanut
You've
butter.
tried some really good ones.
Yes, I have, and I recommend other people try. I haven't tried all of them, but every one I've tried, I've been happy with. But I had made the peanut or almond butter vegetable dip that was. I had all sorts of strange flavors in it. It was really, really good. So I said, "Would you take some of this home?" So I made her a little, split it up because it made 2 cups of this stuff, and I'm one person, so I needed to share it. Anyway, we put it in the refrigerator. She said, "Well, I'm going to forget that." And I said, "Yeah, you are." She said, "Oh, no, I learned a new technique." She took her car keys and put them in the refrigerator with the thing that I was going to send home with her. She said, "I can't leave without it."
Oh,
And
now
it
that's
worked.
lazy genius.
It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Lazy Genius knockoff, maybe.
Yeah.
But we laughed about it because her little key fob that's got all that computer stuff in it was like ice cold.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, those little life hacks.
Oh, yeah, well, anyway, so she heard me talking about her and she called me on the phone. So,
You telling my story?
yes. Yeah, and she may be wanting to get in the building. So I don't know if she can get up here or not. In the building, there are other books we've read that we're using recipes out of, or habits, or how about the sleeping hygiene? Are you doing okay with your sleep? And
I still want to go back to that book. It was one like early on that we read, and there's so much in there that I think I could read it 2 or 3 times and get a little bit more each time.
Well, there are a couple other good books on sleep, too, that I would also enjoy reading and sharing and reinforcing the ideas. But, I tend to bring up the nature thing a lot. I said the forest bathing. But in several of the books we've read, these authors are saying we need to pay attention to our relationship with nature. And in the book called Spark, about exercise, he was taking the children in the early morning outside on the running track, so that they would have time outside, but also physically moving their bodies. And Kristen, you've been very influential in our local business community. Instead of all these network groups go eat and drink and sit down. It's coffee or it's food from a restaurant that I personally might not choose to eat, but since I'm there, I will. It's to be social. But instead, you came up with an alternative for us, and that may have come out of some of this work, too.
Yeah, we've started net walking, where we walk just under 2 miles, and we talk, and I've experienced it. It's easier to build relationships. We're getting outside. We're getting fresh air. And it is just...
And there are even pets that come along with us every now and then.
That's right.
So there's furry friends, 4-footers. The whole idea, though, of building business relationships in a kind of novel and new way. I mean, the business, like I heard one of the women, because there were women at the day that I went most recently, but we have men walk with, it's a mixed gender thing. But she was talking about, it was a little confusing because she wasn't sure how to dress. It was a business networking. Should I be professionally dressed to go walking? And we were all sitting there going, I don't think so. So when we're presenting ourselves, which we were reading about in some of these other books too, about how do we present, there's this context of I'm professional or I'm casual. I'm at home, I'm relaxed with my kids. It might look different. But now that's kind of getting blurred. So who are we based on what we're wearing? Like Tim's here, he's got you got shorts on, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've got on 4-inch heels, and you've got on tennis shoes today? No, you got just your flats on. I mean, so, we can present ourselves any way we want to these days. Right. And I love it.
Right.
And I really, as an older woman, I see on social media there's these, over 40, there's some dressing tips that you should avoid because you won't look like the conforming whatever you're supposed to look like.
Screw that.
Exactly. And that's where I'm living.
Yeah.
But there's some people who are still in there thinking they have to conform to somebody's idea of what presentable looks like. And I don't know what to do with that. Maybe there's a book about this we find, but
maybe
I think a lot of what we're saying, though, is in these books are finding what works for you.
Yeah.
What is your history? What is your context in which you're finding your life unfold?
And I would say you and I are taking that almost to another level because it's so important for us to build communities and environments and influence our environments to be more positive and influence our well-being.
We hope that. Yeah, I think we are called to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you build a community around, wellness and nature and having good products that also support all that.
Yeah. And I think what I'm trying to do, and I don't know how effectively I'm doing it, is maybe in the background. It doesn't have to be in the foreground in your face. It just needs to be a walk the walk, talk the talk type of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think what we're learning in some of these books is that by being true to yourself and not so telly, you become more attractive. More, and I don't mean attractive in physical appearance. I mean attracting
energy.
The similar energies. Yes, vibrationally.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to read a book soon called Touch, and there's some vibrational sensors in our skin that I can't wait to learn more about.
I can't wait either.
Because there's a lot of, energy medicine. We've had some folks in talking about energy medicine and massage and, acupuncture. We've talked about these meridians and different approaches to healing. So learning more about how do we tap into nature and find the joy that we should find as living creatures for as long as we get to live together and in community and harmony.
Well, and
Do I
you
sound
guys,
like Flower Child?
you listeners are part of our community that we are
Absolutely.
building. And speaking of books that we are planning to read, we are open to ideas and want this to be a discussion that you guys can share what you're thinking, whether that's through a review or contacting us on our website or by email.
And we have a Facebook
And we have a Facebook
group.
page.
Yeah, it's open to the public.
So reach out to us and let us know what you're thinking. And then in the future, hopefully soon, or maybe even now as this airs, we're going to have a place where you can easily see all of these fun books we've read and go support our podcast by purchasing it through those links.
Absolutely.
You said it beautifully. healthgeekspodcast.com.
Well,
Yep.
do you have any other thing you want to share about how you're incorporating your reading? Where do you read? Do you read outside or inside?
I read all over the place. I read a lot in the car lately because we took a trip to Tennessee where we got to be in the state parks.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I got to hug some trees.
And you do some audio books, don't you?
And
sometimes?
I listen to a lot of audiobooks. Actually, I did a hybrid with Chatter,
Did you?
audio and the book. So I'll listen on a walk and I'll read
Yeah.
all different. How about you?
I find that I have, for these particular books, since I don't necessarily call this enjoyment reading. I'm doing this because I'm really curious intellectually about what's in the book. So I have a desk and a really nice lamp, and I have a big window.
Ooh.
And so when I kind of take the book and divide it up into sections that I hope I can kind of schedule the reading so that I can reflect on it as I go through it rather than crash reading. Because I think if I read it too fast, too quick, I can't incorporate it into me.
Sounds like a smart process.
And so my desk is my favorite place to read, but I have read at the kitchen table. I like that too. I find if I'm outside, I get distracted. And I feel stuff and I get relaxed and then I go, I zone out. So that has not been very good. And I wonder why I don't go to a library. And so I might experience that because I thought that might help me kind of move it into a new domain. And I love libraries. And when I was a graduate student, I lived in the library. And a lot of my peers who have done postgraduate studies report the same thing. They talk about the stacks and having desks in there. And it was an awful place to be, but you could focus, and go into the intense learning experience that graduate school requires. So I think that's influenced the way I do this kind of reading.
Well, that makes sense why you have such nice structured notes, and then mine can be all over the place because I kind of read or listen wherever I can, and then I go back and try to structure the things that I liked. But
yeah, I'm playing around with how I do that part of it too.
Yeah.
But I do find that I talk to my friends while I'm reading it because something comes up and I say, "Oh yeah, this is going to be so much fun to talk about on the podcast." And here's this idea. So I was going to say I think we have The Good Life on our list.
Yes. I'm so
the
excited
most
about that one.
recent positivity thing. And in Chatter, he did not bring up humor, which I was expecting him to do. Because if you can make a joke on yourself a lot of time, because I do laugh at myself a lot. I go, Eleanor, did you see that? I use that first word, my name. But I find that helpful because it makes me more human, and everybody experiences these things. And once I make a joke of it. So I was reading another book by Elliot Engel, who is a professor of English, I think, at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, called Eat, Think, and Be Merry. And it's a really fun collection of his essays, and he just has a great way of writing. But he's a Charles Dickens authority. And he was talking in one of his chapters about comedy, what makes comedy work. And my son and I have had conversations about this a lot of times, and I had so much fun telling him, you might like this book because he's talking about something you're interested in. But, when you watch a guy fall on a banana peel and we laugh,
yeah.
Schadenfreude.
Yeah. There's this element, we use that. That's a word we used.
That's another fun book, Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart.
Fun? I don't think that was fun. That was treachery.
Ah, it was so informative.
That was the one that Kristen and I disagreed on. So I'm going to give Renee, Gretchen, what's her name?
Brene
Brown. I'm going to give her another shot because so many people like her. But yeah. Well, anyway, so in this book about humor, he's talking about the whole fun foundation of humor is that some awful thing is happening to somebody, and we laugh at it. And he says, how sick is society? And he gives an example of this. I guess this will be okay to share. He says there's a fella in Ireland, and he's out in his fields, and all of a sudden a guy comes up behind him and puts a gun to his head and then says, are you Catholic or Protestant? And the guy says, oh, geez, I'm going to die here.
Right.
What's
the right answer?
And so he said, oh, I got it. I'm Jewish. And the guy says, oh my gosh, I'm the luckiest Arab in the world to find a Jew in Belfast. So the guy dies, and it's like we're all laughing about this. And so Elliot Ingalls talking about what is a society built on that laughs at this tragedy. And what he pares it all down to, and I thought this is kind of interesting, is that the guy falling on the banana or this is human. And what we're doing is we're sitting there exploring the human nature, and it makes me know that when I fall or trip, I'm human, and so it works. But the switch over to tragedy is when the focus is on the awful things that happen in life and how sad they are. So comedy and tragedy are very connected. Mary Beth just walked in the studio.
Oh, hello.
Are you a health geek, Mary Beth?
Are you guys on?
Yes, we're on.
Yeah, I am a health geek.
Okay.
Cool to see your setup.
Yeah. So we're wrapping up an episode. I was just talking about humor, and that this many of our authors have not talked about it, and I hope that we will read a book that talks about the health benefits of laughing.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So we're looking for that one. Well, who are you?
Well, I am Kristen Norton, one of the registered dietitians of Well Balanced Nutrition. And we invite you to visit our website to learn more about our coaching services and our DIY guides and courses.
And I'm Eleanor Russell at 360health4u.com. I like to help people make supplement choices that are healthy and based on natural ingredients and non-toxic home cleaners and all sorts of fun products to use on your body to keep you healthy inside and outside. Reach me at 360health4u.com.
And don't forget to go to healthgeekspodcast.com. Click on whichever book that you are most interested in, and it will take you to the show notes for that episode. And if you click on the blue link, that will help us tremendously if you buy a book from, which is essentially us.
The Health
it's
Geeks.
It's through Amazon, but we are an affiliate, so please support us, and we appreciate you upfront for your support. HealthGeeksPodcast.com.
And we appreciate Tim and all you do to help us get our message out.
Yes.
Have a great-
we appreciate you. Thanks for listening.
Have a great day, everybody.
The views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and are not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the expressed written consent of Kristen and Eleanor.